All right, three, two, one. Welcome to the SaaS Pulse Show. My name is Michael Bertoni, and I'm the founder and CEO of SaaS Talent. So excited today. I have an amazing guest, and I got to make sure I get her name right. It is Ginger Dhaliwal. She is the founder and chief product officer at Upflex. It is great to meet you, Ginger. Thanks for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's so awesome. We talked for a few minutes before, and Ginger has like this is her fifth or sixth, right? What did you say was your fifth
Good.
or sixth
Yeah.
startup? So everybody listening, she is a startup veteran, right? And we didn't even talk that she has this Sero partners. We didn't even talk about that. You're a VC as well. So she might be one of the best in New York City. So if you get a chance, definitely connect with her, talk with her. But let's get right into it here. So, Ginger, what is your superhero backstory? I love to hear people's backstory. And we talked, you have a great backstory. Oh my gosh, you could probably go on for a whole podcast with just the backstory. But what led you to where you are today at Upflex, right? So Upflex now, but you had 5 startups. What led you to this point now?
It's been such a crazy ride. I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and my background is actually in social work. So I'm
Hmm.
all about people and helping people do better. But early on in my career, I caught the travel bug and I ventured into Asia, and I spent considerable time in India, Singapore, and Malaysia, and immersing myself in different cultures, meeting fascinating people, and witnessing the dynamics of a growing area like Asia in the 90s and 2000s was exhilarating.
Right.
And so one of the most defining parts of my journey was I joined a company called Better Wireless in Kuala Lumpur. Um, and I was the first employee, and we grew
Wow.
that company from myself, to 150 hardware and software engineers. And we had offices in Bangalore, Malaysia, in the US. And what was awesome about Embedded Wireless was it was an incubator. We
Hmm.
were building cutting edge technology and spinning them off as separate companies. And having both hardware and software in the same house was a huge opportunity to see both ends of technology being developed. So we were able to bring software and hardware into every aspect of any solution that we were deploying. So some of the things that we worked on at Embedded Wireless was we built the first public advertising network called StreetSpace. We
Hmm.
built the first micropayment solution before PayPal, called C7, that allowed telephone companies to become the new credit card.
Hmm.
And then we built the first healthcare server that went into people's homes, that allowed aging people to live longer and safer at home. So, my background is really vast, and I'm just so thankful that I had the opportunity to work on all this amazing tech as it was starting. But in many cases, we were just a little too early.
Right.
And timing is everything when you're building a startup. And so with Upflex, we started the company in 2017,
Hmm.
and we were still a little early because we noticed that the way that people were working needed to be reimagined.
Right.
And so thank God for the pandemic, in a way, because it allowed people to kind of re-question, what are we doing here? How are we working? And
Right.
the way that we're working, does it really make sense? And so that's essentially how I got started with Upflex.
So cool. Like we said, Ginger is a veteran. She is a startup veteran. She's amazing. So what inspired you? So what was the inspiration around Upflex? I mean, I saw that you have over 11,000 high quality workspaces. I love workspaces, by the way. I've joined a couple collaborative workspaces in Philly and just love the way you feel when you go into these places. But you tell the audience how you started this company. How'd you create the vision for it?
The inspiration behind starting Upflex was deeply rooted in our desire to reimagine the concept of work. My partner and I began contemplating some profound questions about, work-life integration. We observed that the traditional boundaries of work had dissolved
Mm,
with our professional lives. It's perpetually intertwined. And this led to, how could we create a more sustainable, balanced approach to work and life, ensuring happiness and the ability to thrive. And when we started digging into the data, one of the things which was like a real like eye-opening, is that prior to the pandemic, people were losing 15 days of their lives just
mm,
commuting to the
mm,
office, which is like ridiculous.
right.
After
Definitely.
your lifetime of working, you've lost so much just making the commute into the office. And so we started looking at, what could we do in order to enable a better balance for people. And so we started understanding that flexibility was becoming one of the benefits that employees were wanting from their companies. But how do you create flexibility in a way that allows people to thrive? Because working 100% from home also is not good, as we are seeing today in the data, where working from home 100% of the time creates the sense of loneliness. It reduces your career opportunities. It doesn't give you the mentorship. And so as we were looking at those data sets, we're like, the best option is actually providing space close to where people live.
Right.
And how do we do that? And so what we started looking at is that any co-working space or business center, or even your offices, on any given day, 60% of that inventory is underutilized. And which was a real shock to us. And so we started looking at, how do we aggregate these spaces and then connect it to the demand that's close to home? And that's how we ended up building Upflex, is connecting spaces in over 80 countries with over 11,000 spaces to people who needed it on a daily basis. They don't need it permanently, but they need it, on a day-to-day basis, and be able to consume it on an on-demand basis. So that's kind of the journey that led us to Upflex.
Yeah, it's great. So just to give you some real good content that you could use here, what's the elevator pitch, right? So Upflex, give it to us, give it to everybody here in the audience in 30 to 45 seconds. What's the elevator pitch? Why Upflex?
Okay, the elevator pitch for Upflex is the ability to access on-demand spaces close to home. We provide the largest network, and then we provide a platform for companies to manage and curate and budget for the benefit of having access to on-demand spaces. And then in addition to that, we provide advisory services to companies, because moving from a traditional model to an on-demand model where your people are distributed requires a lot of change management internally. And so we also offer advisory service to get your companies to become more hybrid or distributed.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, so the next piece is why Upflex in terms of your differentiation. I mean, there's a lot of services out there that we all know about. And so what's the differentiation? So why would someone choose you over some other,
Yeah.
aggregator or some other service, right?
So, we work with companies like IBM, Zoom. They have a global footprint, and many of these companies today are hiring in clusters in different markets.
Hmm.
And in some markets, so markets being, Sydney, Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, and being able to hire in those markets. And they want to be able to provide options for their employees.
Love that.
So our competitive advantage is that we have the largest network, and we really work with our clients to build out their roadmap as they grow their talent in different markets and provide different solutions in terms of the types of spaces that their employees need. Um, that is one of our biggest differentiator. And, look at WeWork or IWG or Regis, which are probably the largest co-working providers out there, they often don't necessarily have the footprints close to where people live,
Sure.
right? And that is one of the areas that we really truly focus on. How can we provide space to people that is 10 minutes away from their homes?
Love
They
it.
can walk, they can drive, they can ride their bikes too. And how do we provide space and help companies grow their talent pool in clusters where they can also meet their teammates and have space that they can go to. And so I think that's our key differentiator, our global reach, the ability to curate the network so it's close to where people live, I think is, and their teammates are, is one of our sort of competitive advantage.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're solving a pain point for all these empty all these empty spaces, right? I mean, it's like, so I heard New York, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but I mean, you probably know, 20, 30% filled. I mean, it's probably less than that. I
Yeah.
mean, like no is how many people are in the Comcast building, like in Philly? I think about that all the time when I drive in. I'm like, how many people are actually in this building? And it would be cool. It would be super cool if I could just drive into Philly and just go into a building and start working. I mean, that would be so I see it. So it's great. But
Yeah.
let's keep rolling here. The challenges. You've been doing it, I saw at Upflex for 6.7 years, right? So you've been doing it for a while. What have been some of the biggest challenges that you faced in growing the company and how are you overcoming them?
One of the most significant challenges we faced while growing our company was balancing the need to be lean and global while also engaging with our clients that are enterprise companies like the Zooms and the IBMs
Love that.
and providing, the infrastructure uh, that they require of us can be costly and challenging.
Hmm.
Um, our product isn't just a tool. Um, Companies have to fundamentally change and transform how they operate. So there's been a significant amount of time educating companies about how to become more distributed, how to hire in multiple markets, how to change the culture of traditional in-office sort of mindset to become a more broader, enabling people to exist everywhere. And so that sort of transformational process has been really challenging. In 2017, when we went out and started speaking to companies, they thought of us as, a nice to have.
Right.
Um, and, during the pandemic, it became very clear that this had to be a company strategy. And so now we get into conversations at a strategy level. And then the adoption of that strategy takes time and we can't rush it. And, there's a huge education process that goes with it. When you let people know, hey, you don't have an office that you go to, but now you can access space close to your home.
Love that.
Majority of people are really happy, but some people, they miss putting their pictures on a desk and having all their tchotchkes everywhere.
Right.
And there's a lot of identity associated with that. And so there's a lot of transformation, change management that has to happen at the company level. Also, we're a marketplace where we connect supply and our network together to demand, right? And as a startup and trying VC-backed company, your investors are constantly asking you to have certain margins. And as a
Right.
marketplace, those margins are really hard.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we've had to really, in our sort of pricing strategy, spend a lot of time kind of re-looking at that, figuring out how to price our product
Mm,
effectively so that we can continue to build the innovation, but still make enough money through the margins to grow and be profitable and sustainable. And
totally.
that looking back, marketplace businesses are challenging,
Yeah.
and so it's been a real eye opener because it's the first time that I built a marketplace product,
Sure.
and working through those dynamics has been a real challenge. But I think we've been agile enough to try out lots of different strategies and have landed on some really great ways to demonstrate value.
Awesome. Awesome. So how do you approach talent acquisition, recruiting, right? So you've been in business now over 6 years. So what are the ways you approach that? What are been some of your challenges?
We're a remote first and fully distributed company. We have over 60 people in 16 countries. So
Wow.
we try to, our goal is to cultivate a workforce that's rich in culture, age, neurodiversity, which reflects our clients and their employees so that we can build, the right product for our clients because we kind of live it ourselves. And when you bring that many different cultures and people together in a remote environment, and the majority of their interactions are through Zoom, it poses a lot of challenges.
Definitely.
As a company that's fully distributed and remote first, you have to be really intentional in terms of how you communicate, and working on multiple time zones, is also challenging. But we were doing something that never existed before. And so when we brought in talent, we really looked at, their you train for skill, but you
Mhm.
hire for attitude is
Right.
an approach that we
Love that.
always use. I'm really proud of the fact that we continue to be very global, and we have, teammates that are in Nigeria.
Hmm.
We have, teammates that are in a small village in India,
That's great.
Poland, all across Mexico. And so I'm just really proud of the fact that we just have this incredible diverse team, and we continue to focus on building a global business that's incredibly diverse.
That's awesome. That's a great answer for talent. Love that. So last question here. So advice that you could give to other startups. What are the two or three best pieces of advice for an early and growing SaaS startup?
Yeah, one critical piece of advice for tech founders is to concentrate on a genuine pain point,
Mm,
making sure that you're aware of a real pain in the market that you want to solve for. Um, and figure out your timing. With a lot of the other projects that I worked in, timing was a bit of a challenge. Upflex, the timing, we were maybe 2 years too early. And then, but timing in building your product is really important, and having the view of what's in the future. I'd also emphasize, especially when you're building a product, you get locked into sort of a pricing strategy. It's
mm,
really important to be very flexible in your pricing models,
nice.
allowing you to make adjustments, get feedback from your customers, figure out what the market dynamics are. It's really important to not go out of the gate with a pricing strategy and don't build, thank God there's, tools like Stripe out there where allows you to not have to build that tech within your own product, but you can
Right.
experiment by testing out different pricing strategy. I think that's really important. And I think as a startup founder, you never land on what you initially thought was going to be your idea. So you have to
Right.
continuously innovate, get out there and speak. I see so many founders that
Mm,
overbuild before they even speak to their first customer.
yes.
It's
Great.
really important to, build alongside your customers. And that was one of the things that we did really well at Upflex. As we were thinking about this, we got connected to some really great people at Nokia Innovation
Mm,
uh, department. And they gave us some really great insights that went into the first iteration of our platform. So, as a new founder, make sure you're getting out there speaking and sharing your ideas. I know a lot of founders get scared, they want to be in stealth mode, but you
right.
actually add to your knowledge as you speak to others. Everyone has something really interesting to add, and it's really important to be open and sharing. Um, to add to your thinking and get in front of your customers as quickly as possible as you're building.
Well, Ginger, this has been awesome. I mean, as I'm talking to Ginger, actually, if anybody's hearing this, I hear equal parts VC and startup founder, which is a super unique combination, right? Because you're like, focus on a genuine pain point. Like, I mean, how many VCs have you heard say that, right? So, Ginger, this has been awesome. So, thank you so much for coming. And, just looking forward to continuing the journey and hearing about how you do.
Thank you so much for having me. And, we're close by. Let's grab a coffee. I love to meet people in person.
Absolutely. So great stuff. Thanks.